Residents continue to flee Kherson as Ukraine claims that Russia has withdrawn troops from local towns near the front line. A series of explosive devices have been detonated by Spanish police. They were sent to foreign embassies and a factory, according to authorities. Ukraine claims that Russia has withdrawn troops from towns near the front line outside the southern city of Kherson. But at the same time, Moscow continues to shell the local population. Electricity was once again down for many residents. And as a result, civilians have continued to flee the city for areas further into the interior of Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe has been meeting in Poland. It's one of the few international bodies where Russia and the West can still talk. With no signs of peace negotiations between the two sides, Ukraine's foreign minister took the opportunity to launch this appeal for justice.
Without ensuring accountability for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, there would be no lasting peace and security within the OSCE. That is why a special tribunal to address the crime of aggression must be created.
France is the first major Western country to explicitly support the creation of such a court. Meeting at the White House on Thursday, President Emmanuel Macron and his American counterpart Joe Biden condemned Russia's attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure. President Biden said he would be willing to talk to the Russian leader Vladimir Putin if he's ready to end the war.
Russia's foreign minister has accused the West of becoming directly involved in the war in Ukraine by supplying it with weapons and training soldiers. Sergei Lavrov told a reporter Russian strikes on Ukrainian energy facilities were to supposedly derail shipments of Western weapons.
We disable energy facilities in Ukraine that allow to pump Ukraine with deadly weapons to kill Russians. So don't say that the United States and NATO are not involved in this war. You are directly involved.
On Wednesday, NATO pledged to supply more high-tech arms to Ukraine. The West's delivery of military hardware has helped turn the tide of the war in recent months.
Today we will discuss Russia's war of aggression and...
Russia is increasingly targeting critical infrastructure following Ukraine's recapture of Kherson last month. The attacks, which have killed scores of residents, have been widely condemned by the international community. Lavrov, however, insists that Moscow remains open for talks on ending the conflict.
Russian efforts around Bakhmut indicate that Russian forces have fundamentally failed to learn from previous high-casualty campaigns concentrated on objectives of limited operational or strategic significance. This is the latest assessment by the Institute for the Study of War. Russian forces have continually expanded combat strength on small settlements around Bakhmut since the end of May. In the following 6 months, they have only secured gains on the order of a few kilometers at a time. As the Institute for the Study of War has previously observed, Russian efforts to advance on Bakhmut have resulted in the continued attrition of Russian manpower and equipment, pinning troops on relatively insignificant settlements for weeks and months at a time. Now, this pattern of operations closely resembles the previous Russian efforts to take Severodonetsk and Lysychansk earlier in the war. As the Institute for the Study of War assessed, through June and July this year, Ukrainian forces essentially allowed Russian troops to concentrate efforts on Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, two cities near the Luhansk region border of limited operational and strategic significance, in order to capitalize on the continued degradation of Russian manpower and equipment over the course of months of grinding combat. Russian efforts in this area have remained largely stalled along the lines that they have reached in early July. Even if Russian troops continue to advance towards and within Bakhmut, and even if they force a controlled Ukrainian withdrawal from the city, as was the case in Lysychansk, Bakhmut itself offers them little operational benefit. The costs associated with 6 months of brutal grinding and attrition-based combat around Bakhmut far outweigh any operational advantage that the Russians can obtain from taking Bakhmut. On the other hand, Russian offensives around Bakhmut are consuming a significant proportion of Russia's available combat power, potentially facilitating continued Ukrainian counteroffensives elsewhere.
Police in Spain have detonated a suspicious parcel at the US Embassy in Madrid. They say it contained substances similar to those used in pyrotechnics. Numerous packages have been sent to politicians and foreign embassies across the country in recent days, but police have yet to determine who's responsible. Luckily, the parcels have only resulted in one injury so far, when an employee at the Ukrainian embassy opened an envelope and suffered minor injuries to their hand. Even this weapons factory in Zaragoza in the northeast of Spain has been targeted. It makes grenades that are exported to Ukraine. Another device was received at the European Union's satellite centre, located at a Spanish airbase. Authorities say the letters all arrived in brown envelopes and were mailed from Spain. The spate of letter bombs and explosive devices began on the 24th of November, when a package was sent to the residence of Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez.
It's another disappointing campaign for Germany as they crashed out of the World Cup in the group stages, just like in 2018. It was a topsy-turvy evening for Group E, and despite beating Costa Rica 4-2, Germany will not advance due to Japan's shock win against Spain. Spain do qualify, however, on goal difference and will face Morocco in the round of 16. Japan, meanwhile, will face Croatia in the knockout round. The 2018 finalists played out a 0-0 draw with Belgium. Belgium huffed and puffed right until the end, but late chances from Romelu Lukaku went awry, meaning the European side bow out, having failed to impress. Morocco top Group F on 7 points, an extraordinary outcome in a World Cup full of surprises.
Auf Wiedersehen, Deutschland. Germany has been ejected from the 2022 Qatar World Cup after a shock Japanese victory over Spain on Thursday evening. The Mannschaft has had difficulty imposing itself during this tournament after losing their first match to Japan 2-1 and securing a 1-1 draw with Spain. Germans were counting on a Spanish victory to drag them into the knockout stages, but saw their hopes dashed, much to the resignation of some fans.
Nobody expected Japan to win against Spain, but in the end we deserved to be eliminated. You have to admit, it's been confirmed in previous years and again this time, so I'm disappointed. But somehow I expected it again.
I'll still watch some games, but my interest in the World Cup won't be any greater or lesser just because Germany have been eliminated.
Enthusiasm for this edition was already low, with viewing figures for Germany's games being well below their usual levels. Mired in controversy over host nation Qatar's human rights record, some football fan clubs have called for a boycott of games.
Dani Alves will become Brazil's oldest captain at a World Cup in its history. The 39-year-old will wear the armband as manager Tite is expected to make changes for the South American side, who have already progressed to the last 16. The 5-time winners booked their spot with wins over Serbia and Switzerland. Their opponents are Cameroon, who can still progress with Brazil if they beat their rivals. The indomitable Lions lost their opener to Switzerland and played out a dramatic 3-3 draw with Serbia on Monday. Serbia and Switzerland also play off tomorrow, with both sides needing a win or avoiding defeat, and hoping that Brazil do them a favour. Group H also concludes their games tomorrow. Sam Ashu has more.
It's now or never for Uruguay. They must beat Ghana if they're to progress into the knockout stages. The likes of Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani and Darwin Nunez, all of whom are training behind me at the moment, were fancied to do pretty well in this competition, but they haven't quite got going yet. As for Ghana, well, this particular fixture is a repeat of the 2010 quarter-final when they missed a last-minute penalty to progress into the semis. Now, such is the openness of Group H, all four teams could still qualify. Portugal, of course, the favourites to top it, having won their first two matches. They play at the Education City Stadium against South Korea in what is another intriguing day at this 2022 FIFA World Cup. Samashu for Euronews in Doha.